everybody, welcome to my channel, Class in the Cloud. On this channel you'll find tips and suggestions to help you get started and make a success of your online teaching and online learning journey. I am Simmy. If you're new here, please leave a comment below. I'd love to hear where you are teaching. And while you're there, don't forget to like, subscribe and ring that bell so you don't miss my next video. Today I am super excited to present to you another teacher training for learning education. So without further ado, welcome to Learning Education Teacher Training April 2021. And today we are talking about how to engage students in the online ESL classroom, make your lessons fun while still meeting the learning objectives. So stay tuned and don't forget to like and subscribe. In today's training, we're going to look at what does good student engagement look like? What is a good learning activity? And I'm going to be discussing my 8 strategies to engage online ESL students in the online classroom. So stay tuned. What is good student engagement? Keeping students engaged and actively learning in an online classroom looks a lot different from what it does in the brick-and-mortar classroom. In the brick-and-mortar classroom, silence is golden, and a quiet classroom means that your students are actively engaged in the activity that you presented to them. The online classroom, we need to plan activities is a little bit different. We need to keep our students actively following, clicking, typing, and talking their entire lesson. And today, we're going to learn just how to do that. Good student engagement happens when activity is being presented by, number 1, behavioral engagement. Behavioral engagement is good and polite behavior. Good manners, smiling, yes teacher, thank you teacher. Just an all-round golden student. Next, we have emotional engagement, which is a positive attitude towards learning, wanting to answer, putting the hand up, excited about participating in the class. Then we have cognitive engagement, where the student is thinking critically, answering questions, actively participating with confident application of the knowledge that you are imparting to the student. It is important to note though that while a student may be displaying good behavior, a positive and mannered attitude, but he or she is not exerting the necessary mental effort to actually understand and master the skills that you're imparting, that student is not actively engaged. So what is a good learning activity? Well, firstly, a good learning activity engages all 3 learning styles. You will engage your auditory student with audio material. You will engage your visual student with pictures and an interesting blackboard and so on, and your kinesthetic student with lots of TPR and movement, as well as activities such as drawing. Then the next one is promoting good student interaction and maximizing student engagement, which is what we are talking about today. Number 3, promoting a positive and fun learning environment. It is up to you to make sure that your lessons are interactive, fun, and engaging, and that the students walk away with a smile and a sense of achievement. Lastly, but definitely not least, a good learning activity is cognitively stimulating, being relevant to the learning material and meeting learning objectives. Now you're probably thinking, Simmy, stop babbling, let's get to the point. So yes, here we are. I have done some research and I've come up with 8 strategies to help you engage online English students in the online ESL classroom. So here we go. Number 1, it is important to make your lessons and activities both meaningful and relevant. The goal is full engagement. It is essential that the student must feel that the activity and topic is relevant and meaningful. Research has shown over and over that students who do not consider a lesson or an activity worthy of their time and effort will not engage with the learning material in a satisfactory manner. Now, how can this point be achieved? Number 1, insist that cameras and mics are on at all times. This is so important. If your camera is not on, if your student's camera is not on, you're not making engagement. The first step of engagement is eye-to-eye contact. If your student refuses to put on their camera, you do not know whether they are busy with homework, whether they are playing games, or whether they are reading a book for that matter, thereby not paying full attention to the lesson at hand. Cameras on at all time. Insist that your students put on their cameras. Next, connect what is being learned to previous knowledge. This is so important. It doesn't matter what you are teaching, whether it be vocabulary, whether it be reading, whether it be writing, reading and comprehension. Connect what the student is learning to previous knowledge. Make those links for them. Make real-life connections and provide adequate context at all times so that they can apply it to everyday life. If they can apply what they're learning to everyday life, they will automatically be more engaged in the activity or lesson. And the last point on making activities both meaningful and relevant, you need to be completely engaged yourself. If you're not engaged in the lesson, if you are just going through the motions and swallowing your yawns and trying to get through the day, it is contagious and you will lose your students on the first sentence. Be engaged, be animated, and be excited about the content, and you'll be surprised how contagious that is. Point number 2 of 8, use props, live media, REALIA, and the online teaching tools. Use your technology to your advantage, and here are several ways to do that. Lessons that are made up of only blocks of text can come across as boring, especially to children. It is your job as an online English teacher to keep the eyes on the screen. With a little bit of creativity, you can easily use homemade props and the technology you have to add variety to your lesson and keep the students on their toes. So as I mentioned earlier, be animated, use your TPR, use your flashcards, puppets, REALIA, and enthusiastic body language and voice tone. Keep your screen in the center focus if possible. So especially for the teachers teaching in class in, it's very easy to forget yourself up in the top corner and dragging the students down. This actually in a way disengages you from the students. If you constantly keep your screen on center stage and your screen is bigger than the students at all times, the students' eyes are automatically drawn towards your screen, achieving eye contact and thereby engagement. Make use of short, relevant, interesting, and engaging videos. Yes, your voice can get boring, and there are so many videos on YouTube. I'm sure there is at least one person who can explain a concept a little bit better than you with a song and some animation. Next, let's make use of interactive PPTs and bomb games. Now, if you're not sure what an ESL bomb game is, link below. These are absolutely awesome. They are basically PowerPoint presentations based on various movie themes, and you can custom make them to your lesson theme, and they make the lessons so much fun. So link below if you want to know what a bomb game is. Next, use online tools like the dice, multiple choice, and drawing board. You can also add timers to that. We have several tools on the ClassIn platform. Make sure you use at least 2 to 3 of them for each lesson, keeping your students on their toes. Make an online board that is colorful, relevant, and interesting to look at. Nobody just wants to look at words and black and white pictures. Custom make your board to the theme that you are teaching. This automatically also activates the subconscious memory in enhancing retention of what they're learning. You'll be surprised, especially your visual learners will be engaged if you make your board colorful and interesting. Here we are, point number 3, and you want to build competence and praise your student at all times. Competence is a student's ongoing personal evaluation and perception of their own performance and whether he or she can do the activity successfully and efficiently. Research has shown that if a student has an opportunity to actively attempt and participate in the learning activity, it positively impacts engagement. Therefore, it is fundamental that each student must do something in each activity. Ideally, no student should sit idle on the side during any activity, and all students should be given plenty of space and opportunity to try and succeed and to show what they know. Every student should walk away from your lesson with a sense of achievement. We're still talking about building competence in your students. A very useful teaching strategy you can use in this regard is the scaffolding method. In this teaching strategy, you sequence your activities to start with a lot of teacher support and gradually take away that support, building towards active application of the skill. where the students eventually do the whole activity by themselves. Very, very useful teaching method, and you will remember we did training on that last year. Now, next, very important, especially for your students whose love languages is affirmation. Don't be stingy with handing out prizes and points. Hand out as many trophies as you possibly can. I'm known for handing out 50 plus trophies on a day. I'm just like, good job, good job, good job. And they love it. They actually get agitated if one student has more trophies than the others. And also very nice to use in your games, and you'll be surprised how competitive they get. Next point. The activity should be only slightly beyond your students' current levels of proficiency. This meaning that it shouldn't be too hard and it shouldn't be too difficult. Now, at Learning Education, we are so lucky that we are provided with teaching material and that our students are already grouped according to their proficiency levels. But it is still up to you to read your students, because you might have various levels of proficiency in one class and you need to adapt to each student's need in terms of their language learning. Now, that said, you need to provide plenty of opportunity for every student to show what they know throughout the lesson. That goes without saying. No student should sit idle in any activity, even those who refuse to put their cameras on. My pet hate. Okay, practice gentle modeling with your struggling students. Now remember, they are learning a foreign language and it's already intimidating to sit in front of a teacher in a different country with a different funny accent and learning a language that they only understand partially and trying to look like they know what they're doing in front of their peers. So the pressure is quite high. Some of them also have a parent next to them or a grandparent next to them and they want to impress them. So be gentle with your struggling students. I always use the sandwich method. So I'll praise the effort, correct the error, and then praise again. Always, always blanket in praise. Pair struggling students with stronger students. This is very important because peer learning is key to engagement in the classroom. Never skip a student in an activity. We only have 4 students, maybe even less, in a lesson on Class N with Learning Education. So there is no reason for any student to be bounced or skipped in any activity. In a mixed level classroom, try to match students with a part of activity that you know will be appropriate for their proficiency level. So if you have Q&As, do your easy questions with your struggling students so they can gain more confidence, and try and extend your more advanced students with the more difficult sections or the longer reading pieces. Lastly, on this point, try to include constructive feedback when writing feedbacks at the end of your lesson. This really helps the student to make progress and builds their sense of achievement. Once again, the sandwich method: praise, correct, praise, or praise, constructive, input, praise. Always praise your students, because learning a foreign language is not an easy feat. Point number 4, we're almost halfway through our training session, and that last point was a long one, I know, but I promise the rest will not be nearly as long. Number 4, embrace student-to-student activities and collaborate learning. You want peer learning to happen in your class. You want your students to engage with each other. That is the point, conversation with their peers. Student-to-student activities is a very powerful strategy to achieve student engagement. When students can work effectively with each other, when activity is student-led as opposed to teacher-led, student engagement amplifies. It is extremely intimidating to talk to a foreign stranger with a strange accent across a screen, whereas sometimes the students in their class might be someone they know from school, and they're a lot more comfortable making mistakes or being themselves with their students and you'll be surprised of how more naturally conversation will flow if they haven't got the added pressure of having to now get it correct in front of the teacher or with the teacher. Collaborative learning allows students to make meaningful connection with each other, leaving them feeling less intimidated and more relaxed than having to do a Q&A with a teacher. To make student-to-student learning more effective, strategies can be implemented to ensure the students know how to communicate and behave in this type of activity. Here it is important to model the effective method and to demonstrate desired behavior. So you show how the collaboration is to be done. Lastly, on this point, avoid grouping by ability. Always try to pair your students with a very proficient level, thereby facilitating peer learning and peer modeling. Here we go, moving right along, point number 5. And we are looking at providing autonomy support. What in the world is that, you're gonna ask? And I will tell you. Providing autonomy support basically means the teacher relinquishes some control to the students without losing it, rather than enforcing strict compliance. In other words, you are relaxing your boundaries slightly, allowing students to take the lead without losing control of your class. Strive towards striking that delicate balance between enforcing disciplined, appropriate behavior and allowing explorative learning. Remember to give your students enough time to understand and absorb an activity without rushing the lesson. Give them space and time to explore. Remember to be dynamic and creative enough to make changes and to add an explanation off the cuff according to what your students need at the time, while still watching the clock and the lesson objectives. Don't get sidetracked or go down that rabbit hole. Right? Stick to the lesson plan, but still engage with explorative learning and allow your students to have fun. Welcome students' opinions and foster group discussions. This can be done in your warm-up and wrap-up activities, so what you already know activity or what have we learned activity. Ask students directly, what do you think? Or allow students to be the teacher. Giving them that sense of, I can do this, or I really can add something to the conversation, or I can add something to the lesson. Try to always be friendly, energetic, and fun. Teach at your students' level, even if that means joining in on that rap song. I was mortified when that video went out last year on the teacher group. Yes, I do rap with my teenagers and they love it. They even join in, some of them. And it's just such a nice way to break the ice and to build that rapport with your students. Bringing me to my next point, fostering rapport with your students. Student-to-student relationship is key to engagement and compliance. If you build a relationship with your students, a genuine relationship where they're excited to see you, they're excited to come to class, you always have a rabbit that you pull out of the hat, you always have a fun song or a fun game, they'll be excited to come to class and they'll automatically be engaged before you even start the lesson. Point number 6, and we're continuing the thread of a very important aspect. Build rapport with your students, foster positive teacher-student relationships. Teacher-student relationship is another critical factor to determining student engagement. When students form a close and caring, that's airing, oh dear, caring relationships with their teachers, they are fulfilling the developmental need for a connection with others and a sense of belonging in society. To all those grammar Nazis out there and spelling police, I am so sorry. Please be kind, but it's too late to change that now. Okay, that word should be caring. Okay, anyway, giggles aside. Teacher-student relationships can be facilitated in several ways. Always greeting each other in a friendly manner at the beginning and the end of the lesson. I cannot stress how important this is. Greet your students with enthusiasm, say goodbye with enthusiasm, and always have a smile on your face. Caring about your students' thoughts, wants, needs, and engaging in their world is key to building relationship. Even if that means one student shows their cat and the rest of the students go fetch their cat, that's okay. You're engaging in their world. Just don't go down the rabbit hole and lose track of your lesson objectives. Display a positive and fun attitude. Your enthusiasm is contagious and needs to be throughout the lesson. And remember, always praise your students' efforts. Treat all students fairly. Give each student equal time to participate and show what they know. And those who are reluctant, keep pushing and keep calling on them to engage and participate. Lastly, never make promises you cannot keep. If you're not planning to fly to China, then don't say you're going to go visit. Just an example. Here we go. We're almost wrapping up. Point number 7, and this is very important. Always try to follow the 70-30 rule. As much as you are your student's favorite teacher, they still like their own voice best. They need 70% of the talking time in the class. 70-30 rule basically means that the goal of the lesson should be 30% teacher talking time, 70% student talking and engagement activity time. Students should never sit passively while the language teacher talks on and on about a concept that they can in fact have read on their own. We are in fact in the information age. Students can Google anything and Google knows everything. They can Google a language structure, a grammar rule, even pronunciation and spelling. But what they cannot Google is a real conversation and interaction with a classmate in a foreign language, or feedback, timely correction and praise from their favorite language teacher. Interaction and engagement in a lesson cannot be Googled. We all learn by doing. This is especially true in the language classroom. Language grows with participation when learners get lots of practice, making it all the more important that we embrace the best practices possible to maximize engagement in the online ESL classroom. There are several ways that we can achieve this. Writing and drawing on the small blackboard is a height of excitement in any classroom, especially your elementary students. They love the blackboard, and I often have to remind them, no scratching, because they just love the blackboard. And students to student Q&A. So if you have a reading piece and then afterwards you have a Q&A, let the one student ask and the other student answer, and then swap. The same as you do in a role play. This will in fact increase the learner talking time. Small group discussions or role play, even if you make up your own role play based on the content that you've been provided with, have them talking to each other. Student to student collaboration, student to student engagement is critical for them to get more relaxed in the new language. Playing language games. You can use tic-tac-toe, bingo, board games. The 3 students ask, Benny, what's the time? And Benny says, 3 o'clock. They're all speaking, okay? Have them all engage all the time. Reading out loud and tag reading. I love doing tag reading in my reading lessons. So 1 student per sentence or per paragraph, depending how long this piece is. But for every page of reading, each student gets a piece to read, and I mark it with colors. So student 1 read up to red, student 2 read up to yellow, student 3 read up to green. And they each get a turn to tag read. That way they actually need to focus because they need to know when the one person stops and when the other one starts. Multiple choice and rapid response activities. There is a multiple choice tool in Class In. There is also a rapid response tool. Use it to your advantage. It is a very nice tool to get your students engaged and to keep them on their toes. Search and match. Search pictures, words, sentences. Have them draw on the big board. Have them match the pictures, grab and match and drop. Engage. Keep them speaking, keep them clicking, keep them writing, keep them talking. 70% of the time. Point number 8, and we are starting to wrap up this teacher training, and the next and last point is mastery orientation versus performance orientation. Now this is very important considering that we are teaching students from a very performance driven culture. Now you might be asking me, what in the world does this have to do with engagement? Well, the answer is simple. A student's motivation to do learning determines their level of engagement. Let me explain. There are two orientational mindsets towards learning. The first one is mastery orientation. So this means that you pursue an activity because you are interested in it. You are self-motivated. You want to learn, you want to understand, you want to apply it yourself. The next mindset is performance orientation. You do the activity to obtain a good grade, to finish your course, to look smart, to get praise, to please and impress your parents, and to outperform your peers. Research has shown that students with a mastery orientation have a higher engagement, a higher sense of fulfillment and achievement than those with performance orientations. So how can we as teachers create a culture of mastery orientation? Well, we can frame success in terms of individual and team effort made. So emphasize on effort is key. Recognize and praise student, individual, and team effort. Emphasize progress made and reduce peer comparison and competitions. And promote and foster teamwork and collaborative learning. So in other words, you take the focus off self, you put this focus on team, and you take the focus off do it perfectly and put the focus on I'm so proud of you for trying. Good effort, well done. And again, it's the sandwich method, praise, correction, praise. Okay? And always praise the effort and correct gently with more praise. And that brings us to the end of our teacher training, April 2021. Can you believe it? This has been so much fun. Let's recap. In today's training, we looked at how to engage students in the online ESL classroom, making lessons fun while still meeting the objectives. And I shared 8 points that I came up with after doing my research. Number 1, make the activities both meaningful and relevant. Number 2, use props, live media, REALIA, and your online teaching tools, at least 2 to 3 tools per lesson. Boost student confidence and competence. Embrace student-to-student activities. Provide autonomy support. Build rapport with your students and that teacher-student relationship. Always try to follow the 70-30 rule, 70% student activity talking time, 30% teacher talking time. And number 8, encourage mastery orientation. Thank you so much for coming to training. If you want to read more about this very interesting topic, here are a list of resources that you can go follow on the web. Links in the box below too. Right, there we go. It's time for me to say goodbye and thank you. Thank you very much, Learning Education, for this amazing opportunity to present teacher training again. It has been my privilege. And thank you all the teachers for watching. And while you're there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss my next video. That's a wrap. I'm Simmy. This is Class in the Cloud. Goodbye.